Hello, and welcome back to week 4 of non-traditional instruction with me, Mrs. Board. Thanks for joining me today. As I'm filming this, it's a rainy Thursday. I hope that everyone is doing well, and I miss seeing you in the classroom. What we're going to do is we're going to start today's lesson with a quick write, as we would in the regular classroom. So after I read your topics to you, I'd like for you to pause the video, go find a piece of paper somewhere, and write for about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, your topics as they were in the classroom before we had to end include the good, the bad, and the ugly, the gratitude countdown, a current event, the book you are currently reading or have recently finished, and finally some good news. You don't have to write about these topics. You always have free choice. But I'm going to ask that you pause the video now and take a few minutes to write. Go ahead. Do it now. All right. Thank you. You'll have the opportunity to share what you wrote today during our Google Meets on Monday at 10. There will be, the password is board71. I will put that in the stream on Monday for those of you who haven't had a chance to join us. But we'll start that Google Meets with sharing what you wrote today. Just so that you know, here's what I wrote. I've always told you about my journal that I always write every morning. I try to keep a list of 10 things that I'm thankful for, or my own gratitude countdown. And today's gratitude countdown was several things on there, included the fact that I read this book, started it and ended it yesterday. It's been on my bookshelf to read for about a year, and it only took me a couple of hours to read it. It was very, very quick, and it was a good story. It's called The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry. I'm hoping that you are getting a chance to read a little bit during this time. All right, so this week, starting next Monday, May 4th through May 11th. You may be watching this video on Friday, which is great. I just wanted to make sure that you have plenty of time to do your work for my class. So this week we will continue with our Understanding Other People unit. Students will be able to analyze how an author develops a character's point of view. You noticed with the mustache story, short story from last week, a lot of the questions, the assessment questions, which we're going to actually go over during this PowerPoint, were about the point of view, Mike's point of view in the story. We're going to talk a bit about that. At the end of the unit, you're going to be writing a literary analysis essay that uses evidence from multiple texts to answer the essential question, why is it difficult to understand other people? So we're reading 4 texts, middle school, The Mustache. This week's is going to be called a poem called We Wear the Mask, and we'll end with a piece called Soul Painting. And then you're going to be writing an essay in which you answer the essential question for this text set. Why is it difficult to understand other people? And be sure to include specific details from more than one text in your essay. So hopefully you're starting to see that theme throughout these pieces that we are reading during our NTI together. I wanted to make sure you knew what was going to be expected at the end of the unit. So you'll find this in Google Classroom. This copy of the final assessment essay prompt, final, gives you a graphic organizer, hopeful hints, and also the essay writing prompt with space to write. So this is the graphic organizer that I would recommend you're kind of keeping track of as you read these pieces in our unit, because they'll help you write your final piece. We realized, the text answered the essential question, why is it difficult to understand other people? Middle school, that transcript, the podcast transcript, for me, what I put was sometimes people are going through different difficult stages in their life. One being middle school, a time where people are trying to figure things out. I haven't filled in the text evidence, but it does say you want to make sure that you include the paragraph number, which will be important with your writing piece that you do for me as well. The mustache, sometimes people have memories or experiences that they don't feel comfortable and don't want to share with others, but can make them feel bad or to act differently, is what I thought how the text answered the question for the last one. And then know that, if you scroll down, then you're going to have some helpful hints for writing your essay, and transition words, really good information. There you go. That's where you're going to be writing that, okay? All right. So that final essay is not due until, let's see, due May 18th, just so that you know you've got a little bit of time to work on that, okay? All right, so I want to take a look. We're going to get out of this for a minute and go to the Common Lit website. Take a look at these questions, okay, these assessment questions, because I am hoping that as we do this, these become a little bit easier for you. But I also thought it would be important for us to go to the correct answers so you know kind of what they're looking for, okay? So this is the mustache. Obviously, hopefully you've had it read aloud to you. This was a long one. You probably only needed to listen to it once, hopefully. But then again, as you're answering these questions, you have to go back and kind of reread a little bit of it. Which statement best expresses the theme of the short story? So you know that they always ask you a question about the theme. And we know that the theme is the author's message about life, or what the character, the main character, the lesson that they learn is going to be the theme, and it's usually in a sentence. For this one, the theme of the short story, A would not be correct because a young man visits his grandmother and learns a surprising fact about his family is more of a summary. It wouldn't really be the theme, so we can cross that one out. Part of growing up is realizing that adults also face struggles and heartbreak. Sounds good. I do think that is something that he learned. Let's check and see about the other ones and see what we think about B. Part of growing old is figuring out how to say goodbye to young ones. I don't think that was in there at all. They weren't saying goodbye to each other really. And then, so we can cross that one out. And D, regret over past mistakes can ruin a person's life. And I don't think that this regret that grandma had ruined her life. There's no other indication in there, anything about that. So I think that B is going to be the correct answer. Part of growing up is realizing that adults also face struggles and heartbreak. And just an FYI, that could be something that will help you on that final question too. You can always go back to these answers for these questions and figure out, part that can help you with that short answer. Let's take a look at 2. How is Mike's point of view affected by his grandmother's greeting? Now on this one, you want to go back and reread paragraphs 17 through 24. Mike realizes how lonely his grandma has been. Okay, possibly. Mike realizes that something is off in his grandmother's behavior. Well, if you remember, when you go to 17 through 24, we know that it's going to be about here. She saw me and smiled. Her eyes lit up and her eyebrows arched as she reached out her hands to me in greeting. Mike, Mike, she said, and I breathed a sigh of relief. This was one of her good days. My mother warned me she might not know who I was at first. And then he realizes that, when you read on, she lapsed into silence. She was talking about the birds. There was only a parking lot and the sun glinting on car windshields. So he realizes that something is off in his grandmother's behavior. You could double check C and D. Mike begins to think that his grandmother doesn't love him anymore. That's nowhere in there. Mike begins to think the nursing home staff are abusing his grandmother. Again, that is not anywhere in there in the story. So even if you weren't quite sure about B, you could kind of, cross out C and D. Yes, Mike realizes how lonely his grandmother has been. That is correct. But his point of view is affected more when he realizes that something is off in her behavior. Let's take a look at 3. How does visiting his grandmother at the nursing home affect Mike's point of view? Again, there's point of view. A, he realizes that his grandmother is not as happy as she would have had her family believe. Not really in there. He comes to fully understand how lonely his grandmother is without her husband and confined to the nursing home. Again, not really part of the important part of the story. He realizes how difficult it is for people to age and lose people they care most about. I do think that's in there, but I don't think that that's the main thing. You kind of have to take a look at all of the answers and then take a step back and take a look at all of them. D, he realizes that his grandmother had a complicated life and memories outside of what he knows of her. And we know that this is going to be how it affects his point of view, because at the end, he goes home and he's thinking to himself, he doesn't actually come out and ask his mother, hey, what about you? Did you ever, feel this way about dad? Or did you all ever have these problems that apparently grandma had? So we know that D is going to be the correct answer by what he does when he goes home. Okay? And then 4, how does paragraph 59 demonstrate about the day's effect? His opinion of his grandmother? Not really changed. His opinion of his parents has not really changed. Does he see himself differently? No, not really. He does shave his mustache, but Mike now sees adults differently. I think, again, when you take a look at all of your responses or your choices for responses and you kind of step back, D is going to be the correct one there. Okay. When you take a look at number 5, this short answer, how has Mike's visit to the nursing home affected the way he sees other people? Well, you can definitely go back and use that answer for 4, where it says he now sees adults differently. That'd be a great claim. And then you just need evidence from the claim. And really, when you look at here's more information. He realizes that his grandmother had a complicated life and memories outside of what he knows about her. And I'm not sure that you could use that one as the prompt, but we know that and what he learns is part of growing up is realizing that adults also face struggles and heartbreak. All of that could be good text evidence to support your answer in that. Okay? All right. So I'm trying to keep this video a little bit short to help you out a little bit, but I just want to make sure we went over the correct answers so that you kind of hopefully we'll start seeing those scores go up a little bit. If not, it's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, when you read the poem for this week, We Wear Masks, it's a tough one. The questions are somewhat difficult. Let's talk about it and what you can do to get a little bit higher score on that one. This week, you're going to be reading a poem titled We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Just so that you know, Dunbar wrote this poem. Well, he actually lived, from 1872 to 1906. So you might want to think about that as you listen to this poem. I don't know exactly when he wrote the poem, but he lived from 1872 to 1906. So keep that in mind as you read it. He was an influential African-American poet. He was a friend of Frederick Douglass. And he introduces the idea of hiding behind a mask, okay? I suggest that you listen to it a couple of times. You can also find different people saying the poem on YouTube. If you want to do that before answering the questions, listen to it a couple of times. It'll make answering the questions a little bit easier. You're going to be answering questions about the theme of the poem as well as the figurative language. Here's a hint. Think metaphor, okay? For We Wear the Mask, the big questions are to get you thinking about what you are going to be reading. What are the effects of prejudice, and how does a person overcome diversity? Will be a couple of big questions for that poem for this week. Okay? All right. So your independent work. Read We Wear the Mask. Complete the assessment on Common Lit. Complete the graphic organizer. That one is optional. I've told you. You'll find it on Google Classroom, but it does help you to write. It should help you to write that final writing piece, which is due May 18th. You also have the second week of the Khan Academy work that I assigned last week. So for those of you who did not get a chance to do Khan Academy last week, please do it this week. If you did it last week, you don't have to worry about it this week. In Khan Academy, you'll be working on punctuation, including italics, underlining, using quotes and titles, parentheses, and then you'll take the unit test over punctuation, due May 4th. Okay? Have a great week. I hope to see you on our Google Meets on Monday from 10 to 10:30. Feel free to bring that quick write that you wrote today when we meet, and because I love to hear what you had to write about today. Or you could do a new one on Monday before we meet if you prefer to do that. Okay. All right. So 15 minutes. Made it a little bit shorter this week. Hopefully that'll help. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or send a message on the Google Classroom stream. Thanks. Have a great day.